Support for Audacious with Chion Wolf provided by a generous contribution from Suzanne Hopgood in memory of Frank Lord.
From Connecticut Public Radio in Hartford, this is Audacious. I'm Chion Wolf. Human beings are collectors of certainty. We sort, classify, measure. We inspect, dissect, decode, all with the aim of figuring things out. And yet, among us, there is a curious subset of humans who seem more drawn to the absence of answers. These are the ones who go willingly into uncertainty, who organize their lives around what cannot be confirmed, who hear an unsolved mystery calling from a dark lake or a deep forest and are game to charge right in. On the shore of Loch Ness, in the Scottish Highlands, lives Steve Feltham in a converted camper van. Since 1991, he's kept watch there, earning the Guinness World Record for the longest continuous vigil, seeking the Loch Ness Monster. But we begin not on the surface of a cold Scottish loch, but in the forests and mountains of North America, where stories of a large, upright, elusive being have traveled across generations and across cultures. Mike Wanders spent a year alone crossing the continent in search of Bigfoot. He documented that search for his 54,000 YouTube subscribers, taking them through some of the best-known Bigfoot territory on the continent. He slept out there, listened out there, and kept coming back to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, something big was out there too. So when did this fascination with Bigfoot first take hold?
I think it was like that famous shot of the Patterson-Gimlin film up in Northern California. For those who don't know, in like the Willow Creek, Bluff Creek area, where it's like swinging its arms. Every time you see a bumper sticker, anytime you see anything Bigfoot related, that's because of that one image. And I think I saw it, at the beginning of like some mystery TV show as a kid. And I think it just stuck. It struck a chord and it stuck in my mind clearly.
Why do you think that is? Because there's plenty of stuff out in this world that are freaking weird and unexplainable, but that one's stuck with you. Why?
For one, I'm absolutely wildlife obsessed. I'm the biggest nature guy. I could spend every day of my life out looking for wildlife. But there's another humongous part of me that's really into like mystery and kind of creepy things. And Bigfoot seemed to just be right there in the middle, kind of crossing both genres. And the idea that there's this mysterious, what seems like the coolest potential form of wildlife out there that we can't like put our finger on, that it seems to be out in our forests. How could you not fall in love with that? Some of this other crazy, weird, creepy things we're talking about, yeah, that might be real, but I'm not able to track it. Like with ghosts, you just have to take people's words. But like Bigfoot, there's something leaving footprints. There's something making sounds in the woods. And that was intoxicating to me.
Mike brought up the Patterson-Gimlin film, which, if you're not deep into Bigfoot lore, is basically the Bigfoot video. In 1967, outdoorsmen Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were on horseback in Northern California when they filmed what appears to be a large, hairy, human-like figure walking across a creek bed. To some people, this video is the Holy Grail. To others, it's a hoax, just some dude in a costume, jokes on us. And to plenty of other people, it remains one big, unresolved shrug. And while you might roll your eyes at the idea, some world-renowned naturalists have deeply pondered whether or not Bigfoot or Sasquatch or Yeti exists. Here's the late legendary primatologist and anthropologist Jane Goodall.
I've met people who swear they've seen Bigfoot, and I think the interesting thing is every single continent there is an equivalent of Bigfoot or Sasquatch. There's the Yeti, there's the Yari in Australia, there's the Chinese wild man, and on and on and on. And, I've had stories from people who, you have to believe them. So there's something, I don't know what it is. I'm always open-minded.
And here's the beloved naturalist and broadcaster whom I can only pretend to imitate, David Attenborough.
Very, very convincing footprints have been found.
Yeah.
What made them? And I'm talking particularly about Abominable Snowman, which have had footprints at 18, 19,000 feet. Nobody goes up to 19,000 feet just to make a joke.
Certainly not barefoot.
No, certainly not
You'd have
barefoot.
flip-flops on at the very least, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's right.
So, with Bigfoot-like creatures having lived on our cultural radar for so long, I asked Mike Wanders, what do we know for sure about Bigfoot?
We have learned for sure that Bigfoot is blurry on camera. That's about it. We think we know a lot more. Like Jeff Meldrum has made great progress and cataloging footprints.
Who's that?
He's an anthropologist who really put his entire professional career on the line to go out there and say that this is something the scientific community needs to take seriously. And he was very interested in the footprints being left around the world. But it's hard to say what do we actually know for sure. What we do know for sure is that these things are being reported all over the world, and they've been being reported, or they've been reported since back to Native American cultures, indigenous cultures, all separated from one another all over the world at a time where there was no internet, there was no way to connect. Yet all these isolated pockets of indigenous cultures were reporting something incredibly similar. Was going on in the woods, throwing rocks, banging trees, whoops, screams, dark, hairy, shadowy type creature that almost seemed to be like a protector of the forest. Some cultures claim there was some type of interdimensional thing. So that's what we like. That's the only thing that we know, is that these reports have been going on for a long time. But what is it? I don't know.
What's the closest you think you've gotten to him?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, there might be times where they're right there just laughing at me, or they don't exist. By the way, I do also allow for the possibility that they don't exist. However, over time, I've found that it becomes almost more difficult. The more that you know, it's like it becomes more difficult to keep writing things off and saying hoax, 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 than it is to just admit that there's something there. I don't know what it is, but it just becomes easier at a certain point to just admit that there's something there. I've had some weird sounds up in Nordegg. I heard strange vocalization. Nordegg is in the eastern foothills of the Canadian Rockies. And I acknowledge that there's so many different animal sounds, lynx, bobcats, foxes, that make a wide array of sounds. And you have to take that into account, mountain lions. But every now and then you'll hear something that doesn't really seem to fit into those various animal sounds. I heard something strange in Nordegg. I think there was something there. I really think there was something there.
I heard something strange in Nordegg. Sounds like it might be the title of your memoir. Just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Also interesting that my dog started barking as soon as you started talking about hearing noises. Just note.
You know what? Like, some of my favorite comments are when, like, on my videos, will be like, my dog will just come running over to the TV and stare at the TV when you played this vocalization, when you played that vocalization.
The dogs probably know what the answer is to all this, by the way.
Oh yeah, they know. They know. It can't communicate it. It's frustrating.
You said, like, it comes to a point where there's just so much information that you just can't write it off.
Yeah.
What kind of information are you talking about?
Well, there's so many different categories. For one, you start with the ancient history of all these indigenous cultures, all completely separated. Why are they all describing something so incredibly similar? And then for me, maybe the most credible piece of evidence are the footprints. The footprints that, like, so many of them are easy to hoax. So many of them are not easy to hoax. Footprints that are just incredibly remote areas that it's like, why would somebody put those footprints out there where rain could wash it out the next day and it's never found? And the chances of somebody stumbling upon it are so slim. And many times those footprints will even be found with dermal ridges, which anatomy experts have said is incredibly difficult to hoax.
What are dermal ridges?
Like like almost like a fingerprint on your feet.
Oh, like the lines on the...
Yeah. And or footprints found at like 20,000 feet in the Himalayas. Like, I liked hearing what David Attenborough said about that, where he's like, nobody is faking footprints at 20,000 feet. Who's going up to 20,000 feet in elevation just to do a hoax and then hope that someone's going to somehow stumble upon it when, like, wind or snow can just cover up those footprints quickly? So it's the footprints all over the world in incredibly remote areas. And then there's audio vocalizations, which many times, probably 99% of the time, are known animals. But every now and then you get something incredibly strange, or DNA that's come back from unknown species. The work the Olympic Project is doing in Washington State, finding what seem like bedding nest areas deep in the Olympic Mountains, and they found DNA of unknown species, and they're in thermal cameras picking up incredibly compelling footage. Thermal cameras actually do pick things up. And then eyewitness accounts, I would say. Eyewitness accounts. So many people are liars, as we know. So many people are liars.
And now you're up against AI.
Oh, yeah.
How in the world would anyone... This is sort of a sad truth, is that what if somebody says, look, I got the picture.
Yeah, I don't want that anymore.
Would anyone ever believe it?
Exactly. I'm at a point now where I wouldn't even want that for so many reasons, like what you said with AI. Even if you have a really clear image, everyone's going to say that's AI, which would be insanely frustrating if you actually did get like a shot. So AI makes that incredibly difficult. And with the eyewitness accounts, it's just, are they all lying all over the world? Are all eyewitness accounts from all these incredibly credible people all over the world, are they all lying? All you need is one of those eyewitness accounts to be true. All you need is one of those footprints to be true. All you need is one of those Native American stories to be true. And then the whole thing is real. And the problem is there's so many ridiculous stories. People find fake footprints and they write the whole thing off. They hear some person saying, oh my God, I saw Sasquatch, and then they write the whole thing off. That's the problem with hoaxes, is that, people who don't give the topic the time of day, they just hear one ridiculous story and then they go, oh, that's insane. But you just need one to be true and the whole thing's real.
Do you get that a lot when you bring up the fact that Bigfoot is something that you are really, really interested in? Is the sort of eye rolling of it? Like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, is that something you're up against because clearly this matters to you. You're fired up about it. You've devoted, like, this is multidimensional to you in more ways than one. Like, how do you deal with that pushback or that sort of dismissal?
Oh man, I love it.
Oh yeah?
I love it. Yeah. I grew up, in the Boston area, and I'm a big sports guy, and I loved to just argue and, and kind of be like on my own, 1 against 10. It was just funny to me to kind of be backed into a corner. And it was always hilarious to me to just talk about Bigfoot with people who didn't give a flying, what. And I thought that was funny to just, I don't know, talk about Bigfoot, and everybody rolls their eyes. And I was just so used to that. So when people roll their eyes, and if anything, I think now people are a little more open to it. There seems to be a greater access to information, obviously. And then also it's like, it's not going to offend me because who are you on your couch at home in the city rolling your eyes at Bigfoot when I'm out here 40 miles from the nearest road in an old growth rainforest on site doing this stuff? Like, who are you who never goes out in the woods to tell me that this isn't a possible thing, when people like Jane Goodall are saying that this very much could be a real thing? But you, Joe Schmo, on your couch in the city are rolling your eyes at Bigfoot. So it doesn't matter to me. I think if David Attenborough rolled his eyes at me, I would be a little upset.
I would too.
Yeah.
For like anything.
Yeah. For anything. Don't be upset at me for anything.
When I think about, you were talking earlier about like, we don't know what this is, and we've got just the barest amount of idea of it. When I think about other animals that are unidentified, especially in our oceans, there are countless animals like Bigfoot that maybe we've gotten glimpses of or we can't even imagine exist yet. There are plenty of them under the water.
Right.
Also, maybe aliens.
Yeah, probably.
According to our government.
It sure seems like
it's crazy.
It should be bigger news.
Should be. But apparently there's other things going on that are bigger than aliens.
Yeah.
Then that makes me wonder, again, sort of back to what is it about Bigfoot? And I'm guessing that it's because Bigfoot kind of reminds us of us.
Yes.
This upright, primitive us, right? Is that it? Do you think that's it for you?
Yeah. Well, it's like the same thing. Like when you go to the zoo, what's the animal that usually leaves the lasting impact? It's when when you're looking at a gorilla in the eye, right? And you just see, it's like a reflection of yourself. It's a reflection of human beings, but it's not quite a human. But man, all the mannerisms and the expressions are so human. You know what they're thinking.
Right. You don't get the same sort of connection with a puffer fish.
Exactly. Well, I do. No. It's this idea that there's something potentially so similar to humans out there. And to me, like you said, like the ocean, all bets are off. Like we know nothing about the ocean. So So undiscovered species down there, like, okay, that makes sense. But the idea that like there might still be something like this on land in the United States, it represents an idea that we haven't discovered everything. There's still mystery in the world. There's still magic. There's still untouched adventure, and we don't know everything about the world. And this would just rip that wide open, and we would really have to take a step back and say, oh, wow, we missed something really big. And now there's a whole lot of discovery to be done.
That was Mike Wanders, a documentarian and explorer who spent a year traveling through alleged Bigfoot hotspots across North America, hoping to find proof of this elusive legend. When we get back, what if Mike came face-to-face with Bigfoot and had the evidence to prove it to the world?
I'd almost be like hesitant to put it out there because I would just feel guilty that there's this species that has done so well at remaining undetected. And what, I'm going to screw it up for them?
Plus, meet the man known as the Nessie Hunter.
I pinch myself some nights looking down the whole length of Loch Ness. I pinch myself in disbelief at the gift I've been given in life to just do the thing I love doing.
I'm Chion Wolf. This is Audacious. Stay with me. This is Audacious. I'm Chion Wolf, and we've been talking with Mike Wanders, whose fascination with Bigfoot took him out of the abstract and into the woods. He's a documentarian and explorer who spent a year traveling solo across North America, searching for signs of a creature that many people laugh off and others remain utterly convinced is real. For Mike, Bigfoot is a legend and an unresolved question that sits right in the middle of wildlife biology, folklore, and the unexplained. And that's part of what this episode is about. What it means to devote your life to a mystery that may never be solved. Don't we all have mysteries in our lives that will never, ever be solved? Back to our conversation. Do you think and it's funny, I want to say, do you think Bigfoot, we keep talking about Bigfoot in a singular sense, but really it's big feet. It's multiple Bigfoots, right?
That's the problem, is the fact that they're called Bigfoot that makes it so ridiculous. Yeah, they should have
it's
a
not
cooler
one
name.
thing. Let's just
no,
be
it's
clear,
not one
right?
thing. It's not one thing.
It's not one guy. It's
no, certainly not.
multiple of a same species is what we're guessing, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you guess that this creature is in some way aware that we are looking for them?
Oh, yeah. I think they're incredibly intelligent.
What makes you think that?
For there to be as many as there has to be in order to basically avoid inbreeding and all that, for there to actually be a healthy population all over the world, for them to not be seen like this often, I seem to think that they would be incredibly intelligent, almost like a human-like intelligence. I tend to lean towards them being much more human-like than anything. Could the Navy SEALs go hide from me in those woods? Absolutely. They absolutely. A dumb human could hide from me in that wood. It could just bend down and hide, and I wouldn't see it. Okay. Now picture a species that never disconnected with the natural world, that knows the ins and outs, the subtle nuances of the forest. We are so out of our element, not only in the forest, but at night. So supposedly they're nocturnal. Nocturnal animals are infinitely more difficult to find. So if you make this species incredibly intelligent and they're nocturnal and they're actively doing everything they can to avoid human detection, obviously if there's a species that still exists right now and it's this prominent, it's this big, it's done so by knowing it needs to remain undetected by humans based on our history of extreme aggression and violence. All we do is kill anything. The more similar you are to us, the more likely we are to kill you, right? So if there was a species that sort of witnessed this, it would still be alive because it would say, hey, we need to absolutely stay away from this. Yeah. So yeah, I think they actively try to remain undetected.
I feel like I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. On a scale of 1 to 100, how sure are you that Bigfoot exists?
I'll say 95. But I've always said this, like if there was like a gun to my head and the person holding the gun had the answer and they said this trigger is going to be pulled if you get the answer wrong, I would say I think there's something there. I just don't know what it is, but I do think there's something there. I don't know if this is an incredibly intelligent, undiscovered upright primate or if it's more human-like or if some of these other wild theories are true. That it's interdimensional. Is it an alien? Is it this or that? Is it? I don't know. But what I do know is that there seems to be something in the woods walking on 2 feet.
What's your relationship like with that 5%?
I'm fine with that 5% because you know why? If it somehow came out tomorrow, I don't know how they would prove this, but if it somehow came out tomorrow that Bigfoot doesn't exist at all and it never existed, I wouldn't spend one less day in the woods because I absolutely love being out there. There's already infinite reasons to be out there in the woods. The amazing wildlife that does exist, even here in like New England, moose and black bears, in the West, grizzly bears, polar bears, tigers. Like to me, a tiger is more ridiculous than a Bigfoot. A giraffe, like some of the animals, these very well-known animals are all so much more ridiculous.
Giraffes can't even hide from storms. They can't go anywhere. They're just out there. They just have to take it.
Oh yeah, I've seen that footage of like giraffes. I think they just like put their necks down or something like that.
Sorry, giraffes.
So I'm okay with a 5%.
Let's say you are alone in the woods tomorrow, and Bigfoot walks into a clearing 50 yards away. What's the first thing you do?
Hopefully I grab my camera and hopefully I get the shot. Now, I think for me, the question is like, I would almost be hesitant if I got incredible clear as day footage. I'd almost be like hesitant to put it out there because I would just feel guilty. I would feel guilty that there's this species that has done so well at remaining undetected. And what, I'm going to screw it up for them? I'm going to be the one who blows it up?
What if, wait a minute, what if Bigfoot, okay, hear me out. What if Bigfoot has a telepathic power and has encountered plenty of humans, and every single time they've whipped out their phones, and every single time, as soon as they have hovered their finger the microsecond before it hit record, Bigfoot has said no. No.
A lot of people do report these telepathic abilities and you know, a lot of credible people that I've heard from, like Les Stroud, Survivor Man, said that like he heard voices in his head. You know, like I felt presences before, but I just write that off to like a sixth sense, you know, like an ancient sixth sense that we have, you know, to detect a nearby lion that's hunting us. But it seems to go beyond that there might be more to their abilities. And for me, that doesn't necessarily push it into the woo category because it might just be a science that we don't understand yet. It might just be something that we just don't really understand how to do. But I don't know, like, are they somehow preventing you from taking the photo every time? I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe it was Bigfoot who just put that thought in my head.
Exactly. They could be like steering this conversation a certain way.
I wouldn't be surprised at this point. Nothing surprises me at this point. If you could ask Bigfoot, as you put your phone back in your pocket obediently, one question, what would that question be?
I feel like my question is now going to change based on something I just watched, which it might be complete BS. But some guy who said he got a telepathic message and he said that, like, why are you so interested in what I am when you don't even know what you are? Yeah, I was like, whoa, hold on. They're like, so, yeah, right, mind blown. So maybe if that's true at all, man, maybe that's my question. Who are we? Maybe they'd be like, I don't know. You wasted your one question.
Genie disappears.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I wonder what question you think he would ask you. They would ask you.
maybe why do you feel the need for more? Why do you have this? Why do you feel the need for more development and more land and more? Why? We only have so much like remote, truly untouched forest and wilderness left. Like every single year it's diminishing. So maybe it's something along those lines. Like, why the hell? Like look at how much land you have. Like, can't you just stay there? Or why are you so interested in us? And I would say it's your own fault because you're incredibly, I don't know, mysterious and
Alluring.
You're always seeming to come up to the campfires at night and then just vanish just in time. Like, that's intoxicating. How are we not supposed to be interested in that?
It's like modern day dating, breadcrumbs, push and pull.
Exactly. It's exactly right. Just like ghosting 24/7.
I know. The ultimate chase.
Yeah. Hard to get.
Is there any way you could ever believe it? Like, is there any proof anyone could ever show you so you'd really believe it?
Yeah, well, a body. Sadly, I think it would take a body. Like you said, the best photo right now will not do it because of AI.
Like, you'd have to see this body in person.
No, because I would need it like for the same. Like, I don't know. I've never seen a tiger. I would just need it like to be recognized by the scientific community to say that this is a real thing. And like, boom, that's it. But what the scientific community would need would likely be a body, a piece of a body.
Which is weird because that means there's been no dead bodies in nature found. Like, they die, don't they? Right?
Right. Well, the thing is like, I don't know how many bears there are, whether it's like, I don't even want to give a number because I'm going to be so wrong, but the amount of black bears there are in the United States alone versus the amount of dead bears that are found, or even like bear skulls, it is so rare to come across those. And their numbers would be astronomically high when compared to that of a Sasquatch. I've spent so much time in the wilderness, I've never found. I rarely find dead animals at all. I mean, a couple times found like a dead deer and stuff, but if Sasquatch is as rare as they're supposed to be, it'd be incredibly difficult to come across a dead body. And then you can even just stretch it as far as to say that, hey, if they're really intent on not being discovered and they move in family groups, which they think they do, just like, chimps and gorillas, they move in family groups that like, hey, one of us just died. They're very much aware that individual just died. I think it would have to come down to like an individual that totally is separated from its family, and maybe that one died, and maybe a couple others don't know that its body is there, and then someone has to stumble upon it. But again, the chances of that happening are so incredibly slim.
Is there a question that nobody asks you that you really wish someone would freaking finally ask you?
Well, I have a question for you. Do you believe?
So my belief is passive. It is not necessarily active because I've seen so much. It's just a blanket humility of, I don't know freaking anything, therefore anything's possible. It's that kind of belief.
I think it is so incredibly ignorant for us to think that everything we see is the known reality, the known universe. Like no, we have 5 senses. We have 5 senses. Imagine explaining the complexities of our galaxy to a cockroach. Their mind can only go so far. Our minds can only go so far. There is so much more going on than meets the eye. We don't know what is going on in our world.
Well, Mike Wanders, thank you so much for talking with me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
After the break, meet a man who's been living in a converted van on the shore of Loch Ness for decades, looking for the Loch Ness Monster.
I'm not so in love with the solution as I am with the hunt. The pursuit of the evidence, the pursuit of this mystery, and where the unpredictability of that takes us. That's what I love.
I'm Chion Wolf. This is Audacious. Stay tuned. This is Audacious. I'm Chion Wolf. In the Scottish Highlands, there's a 23-mile-long, very deep lake called Loch Ness. And generation after generation, people have said there is something mysterious in it. That something has never been pinned down. It's been imagined as a monster, a dinosaur, a myth, a hoax, a giant fish, or maybe something else entirely. But whatever it is, or isn't, the mystery of the Loch Ness Monster has endured for over 1,400 years. Steve Feltham has spent most of his life under Nessie's spell. He says he first experienced Loch Ness at age 7 during a family holiday in 1970 and got utterly hooked on the possibility of a monster in a Scottish loch. He says he was drawn not only to the mystery, but to the place itself, its majesty, its atmosphere, the kind of energy he says he doesn't feel off any other body of water. The moment he decided to devote his life to finding Nessie happened in 1991. He was in his mid-20s, working a job installing burglar alarms.
I suppose I had two voices, one on each shoulder, one saying, this job's not so bad, settle down, get married, have some kids. The other voice, the louder voice on the other shoulder, was just saying, there's a monster in a Scottish loch and it's your mission to find it. Go and find that monster. And I listened to that voice.
From a converted mobile library van parked on the shore of Loch Ness, Steve Feltham has spent 35 years watching the water for signs of something literally unexplainable. I asked him what a perfect day at the loch looks like, aside from the obvious dream scenario of finally finding proof of Nessie.
My perfect day, really, is to sit outside my van, watching this end of Loch Ness, talking to random people that turn up and ask me if I've seen it yet. Then at the end of the day, packing everything away, and that's the day. And I haven't gone any further than 10 feet from where I got up in the morning. I suppose when I refer to my life as I consider it to be an adventure, it's a very rare kind of adventure in as much as I'm static. The adventures come to me, but because I've put myself out on a limb doing a very odd thing, trying to solve this mystery, that in itself attracts the unpredictability, which I sort of thrive on that. You know, people turn up and they tell me of things that they may have seen yesterday, they may have seen 10 years ago, or they may have seen 60 years ago. That's a large part of what I do on a daily basis, trying to sift out the good from the bad and the nonsense.
If you ever found the Loch Ness Monster, a lot of questions within this, but how would you feel? And I ask that because part of me imagines that you would be elated, excited, stupefied, in awe, but I also imagine that you would also feel a sense of mourning for this life that you've built for decades in search of. And when you finally discover, wow, that's a change of everything. So I'd love you to talk through what you imagine that might be like for you.
My imagination of that moment does change quite regularly, how I would deal with it. I figure if I got a piece of video of something swimming about in the bay here, I'm realistic to know that my piece of video, like every other piece of video, will just be a back of something, a glimpse of something. It won't be the whole creature jumping clean out of the water. It won't be the final conclusive piece of evidence, but it'll be something to put with the body of evidence. And sometimes I think I would shout that from the highest rooftops to the world and say, look, here you are, justification, not just for me, but for all of the Nessie hunters and believers around the world and witnesses that have seen things here. And I think after 34 years of doing this, I increasingly realize that I'm not so much doing this for the knowledge of the outside world. I feel very much that I'm doing this to satisfy the curiosity of that 7-year-old me that turned up here, that has had this lifelong fascination. And so in a lot of ways, if I saw something and didn't film it, I might be content to just keep that to myself. I'm not sure. Then again, on a different day, I might think, no, I'm going to tell them. I don't know. I'm going to have to cross that bridge when I come to it.
If you were somehow face to face with Nessie, you would obviously want to take a picture of it, a video of it. Would you want to tag it, collar it, take it out? Would you want to talk to? I don't know. What would that face-to-face interaction be in your wildest dreams?
In my wildest dreams, I think that if I was the person to identify these creatures and solve this mystery, and if I did make that public, then I think my role would instantly switch to one of protection rather than hunting. My definition of hunting is hunting with a camera, but I would switch to trying to protect these very endangered species, very small population of something living in here. And I think if I was that person that solved this mystery, that should open up a lot of invites to go and solve some of the something like the Canadian one in Lake Okanagan, which they describe as the Fruit Valley of Canada. I could live out my dotage on the side of a lake that's called a Fruit Valley of Canada instead of Loch Ness, which is the windsock of Scotland. So, first mission, solve this mystery, and then deal with the repercussions of that. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what gets me hunting and investigating. That's what I love. That's that 7-year-old boy, me, that came here on a holiday and fell in love with the possibilities of something in a Scottish loch. To see all these years later what's become of him, what's become of me, that my life is doing the thing that I love doing. Oh God, he'd be so excited. I'm still excited by it myself, to be honest. I pinch myself some nights, stood outside here on the decking, looking down the whole length of Loch Ness. I pinch myself in disbelief at the gift I've been given in life to just do the thing I love doing. There's something big and unexplained swimming about in this body of water. But that's maybe not the whole message. The whole message is to other people looking from around the world at what I do and thinking, I don't care whether there's a monster in a Scottish loch or not, but I do hate my job and I do wish I did something else. To just tip a few of those people over the edge into thinking, I'm not going to go and find the monster, but I am going to go and climb mountains, or I'm going to go and swim the English Channel, or whatever they want to do. I'm living proof that it doesn't matter how out there your dream is, you can make an absolutely joyous life if you just take that very first step. All it is, just follow your dreams, follow your heart. I think that's as important a message as there's a monster in a Scottish loch.
Listening to you talk makes me think of something that I hadn't thought as we were preparing for this interview. You said there's something bigger in the loch. It makes me think of how maybe this feeling of Nessie's in there, I know it, may for some, and maybe you, overlap with the idea of a greater power. Something like it's out there. It's out there. You feel it. And maybe you can't see it. You can't photograph it, but you can feel it. You know it. You're committed to it. Do you see any sort of overlap?
I see it in the Nessie hunting community. I do see some quite evangelical believers that no matter what, there is a long-necked dinosaur swimming about in Loch Ness. I used to utterly and completely believe, when I arrived here full-time in my van to solve this mystery, I was going to find a long-necked dinosaur, a plesiosaur. And now, through looking at the evidence and reconsidering, I'm no longer looking for long-necked dinosaurs. I have adapted my expectations. And I wouldn't say I am evangelical about there must be. I know I've seen enough evidence to convince me that there is. And any new piece of evidence, I have to be as skeptical as the biggest skeptic. I'm convinced there is something to be explained here. It's not long-necked dinosaurs, unfortunately. And I don't know what it's going to turn out to be. And that's part of the excitement, really. I'm asked every day, what is it? Well, all we can honestly say is it's one of the world's greatest mysteries. That's the definition of a mystery. We don't know what it is.
Just for some clarification, you mentioned that you're not looking anymore for a long-necked dinosaur. Will you talk me through why you thought it was that and why you no longer think it is that?
Ever since the 1930s, there was a photograph taken, the surgeon's photograph. It's one of the most famous photographs of last century. It's the neck sticking up out of the water. And that was the backbone of my belief of something in Loch Ness. And that was identified as potentially being part of a plesiosaur. So that's what I believed. And that's all the evidence seemed to point towards that. And about 3 years into being here full time, in about 1994, a guy called Christian Sperling made a deathbed confession that him and his uncle, Marmaduke Wetherell, had faked that photograph, the two of them. But once that's out of the jigsaw puzzle, you no longer need a long-necked creature as the solution to this mystery. So, therefore, what could it be? And certainly a front runner for me is a catfish, a Wells catfish. Second biggest freshwater fish in the world. Grows to about 4 meters, some of these things. They're massive, great big things. Mostly they're in rivers around the Mediterranean and stuff. They've got big, long things that stick down below their jaws, but they've got a very smooth back, like an upturned boat. They live for about 100 years. They eat other fish. They come to the surface because that's where our population of fish mostly live. On a flat, calm day, their back could break the surface as they're chasing their prey. It becomes aware that it's too high up in its own world, and poof, back down it goes. That ticks more boxes than the plesiosaur, or than the spaceship that some people believe is the explanation, or to the one I was told of last week, which was sat with a woman out here for about an hour, and she explained her whole theory that the Loch Ness mystery is a giant bivalve, giant mussel, 2 meter long mussel that's shooting around in here. Now, my catfish theory, to me, is slightly more plausible than her bivalve theory, but it's like a horse race. You bet on one horse, you bet on a different horse. You don't know which is going to turn out to be the winner until the end of the race. Until we solve the mystery, it still could be the spaceship. It's not going to be the long-necked dinosaur, unfortunately. Could be the catfish. We don't know. That's the beauty of the hunt.
So when we think of Nessie, we think of that photograph. We think of the long-necked dinosaur, maybe with the fins. And I actually visited Loch Ness back in April, and that was with my little kid nieces and nephew, and it was so much fun. And we went on a boat tour. I got a little toy Loch Ness that I have on a windowsill, and that is the icon in my mind of what we're looking for. So if you're saying that Nessie isn't that long-necked famous silhouette that we are all thinking about, it could be a catfish, it could be alien life, it could be anything, then how do we know what we're looking for here? How do we know what this is? And why is it a mystery if we don't even know what we're really looking for? You know what I mean?
Well, it's a mystery because on quite a regular basis, down through the years, people have glimpsed the back of something, like an upturned boat, it's been described as, and multiple witnesses at the same time. Sometimes witnesses of one particularly good sighting. 2 people on the south side of Loch Ness watched an object for about 40 minutes moving around mid-water, whilst 7 people on the other shore, unbeknownst to them, also watched the same thing. Then independently, they all reported the same thing and realized they were all talking about the same disturbance. And sonar on boats gets contacts with midwater targets that are the size of a transit van. The biggest creature we do have in here, known, is a salmon or the occasional seal. Now, these sonar contacts are not salmon or seals. They're much, much bigger than that. And that's a machine that hasn't got the ability to, it's not like a fisherman that will tell you it was this big when it was really that big. The machine says, that's how big it is, take it or leave it. And, that's compelling evidence, really. That's why we sit here and watch this body of water, because for 1,400 years, there's been a trickle of eyewitness evidence.
But if it is a Wells catfish, then what's the mystery?
Well, it's It's
Yeah, like how would you even know if you found it?
well, that's a very good question. Yeah, true enough. If I turn up with a Wells catfish, another Nessie hunter's going to say, "That's not what I'm looking for. That's not it."
That's a Wells catfish.
Yeah. So yeah, it's yes, it's multi-layered in its yeah, challenging, I suppose you'd call it. Yeah. I've come to realize that I'm very much like a fisherman. If you ask a fisherman why he does what he does, I doubt many of them will tell you it's so that I can show everybody the big fish I caught. It's about the hunt and the technique and the working it out and trying different ways to catch the fish thereafter. And I'm like that. I'm not so in love with the solution as I am with the hunt, the pursuit of the evidence, the pursuit of this mystery, and where the unpredictability of that takes us. That's what I love.
What would the evidence be?
Good question. Good question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you don't know what the mystery you're looking for looks like. So how will you know when you found it?
Yeah, it's a mystery.
If you never find evidence of her or discover any more about this mystery, what it is, who it is, what it means, if nothing more happens than you in your van experiencing Loch Ness and the people around it, will it have been worth it?
Yes, because for 34 years in doing this, I would categorize my life as being an adventure, chance of a massive discovery, and ultimately freedom. My freedom to, as you say, some mornings you maybe wake up and you think, do you know what? I'm going to go and whatever. I have the utter and complete freedom of my own, just doing what I love. And I think that is such a rare privilege. So hopefully I'll solve the mystery in my lifetime. And if by any slim chance I don't, I'll still die very, 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 very happy that I've had the privilege to live this free life following the thing that I'm fascinated by, a mystery in a Scottish loch.
Well, Steve Feltham, thank you so much for talking with me.
Absolute pleasure.
Audacious is always lovingly produced by Jessica Severin de Martinez. Meg Fitzgerald is the Senior Manager of Projects and Radio Programming, and Robin Doyon-Aitken is the Deputy Director of Storytelling at Connecticut Public Radio in Hartford. If you like this episode, check out the one we did featuring another man with a singular focus and a goal that may never, ever, probably never will be accomplished. Get to know the guy who's devoted his entire life to visiting every corporate-owned Starbucks on the planet.
I am trying to take the long view of how do I organize my life in such a way that I can still be Starbucking when I'm 100.
Find all of these conversations at ctpublic.org/audacious or on your favorite podcast app. Stay in touch with me on the socials at Chion Wolf, and you can always send an email to audacious@ctpublic.org. Peace.
On a sunny day.